One bullet didn't start the war. It was the fear and pride of leaders that did. World War I did not begin solely because of the assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand of Austria-Hungary in 1914. That shocking event merely lit the fuse on a powder keg that had been building for decades. Europe at the time was a tightly wound web of rivalries, with nations competing fiercely for power, territory, and influence. The major powers, Britain, France, Germany, Austria-Hungary, and Russia, were engaged in a constant struggle to prove their dominance, both militarily and economically. This tense atmosphere, fueled by aggressive nationalism and suspicion, meant that even a small incident had the potential to spiral out of control. By the early 20th century, military strength had become a symbol of national pride. Germany and Britain were locked in a naval arms race. France and Germany harbored old grudges from previous wars, and Austria-Hungary struggled to maintain control over a diverse, restless empire. Alliances created to maintain peace instead created a ticking time bomb. If one country was attacked, its allies were obliged to join. This meant that a localized dispute could quickly ignite a continent-wide conflict. When the assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand occurred, it wasn't merely a murder. It was the spark in a landscape already primed for war. Leaders across Europe faced a terrifying dilemma. They feared appearing weak at home or to their rivals more than they feared the consequences of war. Diplomacy was undermined by arrogance, miscommunication, and pride. Aggressive nationalism fueled public pressure to stand strong, and military generals were confident that war could be swift and decisive. Yet once the war began, reality was far from the glory many had imagined. Millions of young men died in the trenches, often in horrific conditions, facing mud, disease, and the constant threat of artillery. Entire empires, Austria-Hungary, Ottoman, and Russian, crumbled under the strain of prolonged conflict. Societies were reshaped, economies ruined, and an entire generation was traumatized by the brutality they endured. World War I is a stark reminder that wars often begin not from necessity or immediate threat, but from fear, pride, and political miscalculation. A single event can trigger a catastrophe if the underlying tensions are ignored, alliances are rigid, and leaders place ego above diplomacy. It teaches us that preparation for war, unchecked ambition, and a failure to communicate can turn a spark into a global inferno, leaving devastation in its